Hey everyone, so today we'll be doing a Leviathan deck profile of the deck. So first off, you have the new Leviathan buddy. So basically the old Leviathan required it to be on the field for you to equip as many items as possible. Whereas with the new rebirth buddy, right, it just needs to be in the buddy zone and you can equip as many as possible. And another thing is that the equip cost is the same. So it's not like the old one whereby you have to pay one more gauge. So yep, best buddy card. So first off, we only play 2 Leviathan. Why is that so? Is because you can fetch it out with the next card over here, which is Leviathan Abyss from your deck. Another thing is it's not really required for the draw. The only reason you need it is basically for the overkill. Yep. So basically you have 4 of the Leviathan Abyss. So this is your key card in the deck. So basically what it does is at the start of your attack phase, you can search your deck and equip a hero item from your deck without paying its equip cost. So from then, right, you can actually see that you can equip this and then search out your Leviathan during your battle phase and then overkill. Because the overkill is during your turn, so it's basically at any point in time, especially during the attack phase. So the next card is we got the discard fodder, the Fabricated Weapon. So what it does is basically just on this card you charge and draw and gain a life if you got a hero item equipped. Another thing is that when it attacks, you get choose a hero item and give it 1 crit. So this 1 crit is actually quite important in some situations. I'll elaborate further on that later. Okay, so next is the protection of the deck, which is the new Rebirth Durandal at 2 copies. So Durandal gives all your hero on your field, so which is basically everything including your hero set spells. Can't be destroyed, can't be bounced, and can't be nullified. And you can discard a card from your hand to restand all hero items on your field once per turn. So that's actually very good. So with this, imagine you have 15 items, you just discard one, you restand everything. So the next card is the Light Bliss Sword. So basically this is one of your defensive cards in your deck. So if your opponent is attacking with a card alone, you can pay 1 life to nullify the attack. Another thing is that damage by this card when it's attacking alone can be reduced. So as you can see, if you can combine with the discard fodder, right, you can actually bump the crit up to go through decks that reduce your damage, such as the new Empress or any distortion wall like effects, or the new Dear Friend card. Another card, it's the Sword of the King, the Suitor Cross. So basically what that does, right, it's on equip you discard a card, such a deck for Sword of the King. So basically every single item in your deck is Sword of the King except for your discard fodders. So if you got enough, you can actually discard another card, search for itself, then discard another card, search for itself. Then you can just loop it and search for what you really need. So in this sense, right, you can actually see that even though we're playing 2 Leviathans, actually we are in fact playing about a good 9 copies of it because all these 3 can search for it. Okay, so now we'll be looking at the one-off weapons in the deck for attack purposes and flexibility. So first off is the Savage form. So Savage is a very old card, so you're using it mainly for the equip from your drop zone. So usually against decks that can find a way to destroy your cards when you have no Durandal on board, you can actually equip them back with your Savage. Especially when you want to destroy your own items to draw cards with your set spell, you can actually use the Savage to equip them back. Another card is the Fabricated Replica. So this is just a very simple effect. If you do damage or destroy your opponent's monster by this card's battle, you can charge, gain 2 life and draw a card if you have 4 hero item equipped. So it's a one-off effect and it's a name effect, so it's actually quite helpful if you have no hand size and you got the Durandal. So you can actually just attack hit, charge draw, discard for Durandal. And let's say if you charge draw into a Disaster Palace, you can Disaster Palace, resign everything, draw a card, then discard for Durandal, which is a lot of damage. So next up we have the Shield of the deck. Don't really care about the name. So basically its effect is that when your opponent attacks you with 10k or more power, you plus 20k defense. So basically you're at a 23k wall. So this actually stops a lot of things, especially with Disaster Palace. Sometimes you can actually just completely stop and shut down the attack. Or with Empress by itself, which prevents them from dealing more than 5 damage at a time. So they have to force you to single attack, and usually now in the card game, of Buddyfight, like most of the monsters attacks are more than 10k, so you can't really touch you. Another effect is when he attacks for more hero on field, you destroy a monster on your opponent's field. Another card is the remove soul sword, so on attack remove soul, so quite crucial sometimes. Then the other one is the chair. So basically a chair is just prevents your cards from getting nullified. Another thing is you can pay 1 gauge and rest this card to restand another card on your field. So basically, if you need extra attacks, you can actually just pump it out. So you can pay 1 gauge, rest this to restand something else, and then use the Durandal to restand your whole board, and then you can have extra attacks and then rest this again to restand again. So it's actually a lot more attacks with the chair itself. It also gives all your other hero items plus 1k power, which is helpful in some situations. So another one is the Gauger. So on attack, 2 or more, hero on field, gauge 1. So if your opponent has like no cards with any defense, right, you can attack with this, 2 crit, gauge 1, rest this, restand, attack again for the gauge. So it's basically a free restand. Another thing is the Sword of the King, Dane's Lift. So basically this card does is can be rested by opponent's card effects. Another thing is that when it attacks, right, if you have 3 or more hero items on your field, you can destroy a card on your opponent's field. And if you destroy a card on your opponent's field, you gain 2 life. So it's just a free gain 2 life card. And it can be rested, so it's guaranteed to attack at least once and proc its effect. Another card is the Replica that prevents effect damage by 1. So it reduces all effect damage by 1. So all those shoot 1 effects are completely nullified with this card. So as you can see, there's a lot of one-offs and they can all be filtered for the specific situation based on the Abyss. So what you would more or less want on your field would be the Abyss, Durandal, the protection and a shield. If you are playing against decks that can shoot damage, you equip this as well. So most of the time you'll have everything on the first equip, unless you're really unlucky. So moving on to the Monster Zone. You have the Messiah Arms card fodder. So I played it at 1 copy just for tech purposes, and since it's a once per turn effect, so I don't see a point in playing more than 1 copy. But however, Japanese players are playing it at 3 to 4 copies because when it's in the drop zone, it has another effect whereby you can pay 1 gauge, put it to the bottom of your deck to nullify attack and gain 2 life. So I don't see it as important as the other Japanese players do. However, the second effect is actually quite good and you can actually test it with more copies if you want to. But I prefer consistency and more flexibility in a 1 turn kill scenario, so I play 1 copy. So another thing is the 2-0 Empress. So this 2-0 Empress effect is when your opponent searches their deck, you can discard it and make your opponent search the top 4 cards instead. So this actually stops a lot of effects, deck search effects from happening. You can actually stop some crucial deck searches as well. And another thing is that if your opponent is actually just very lucky and they go through it, then it's quite sad for you, but most of the time it won't happen. And the good thing about this is when they cast those spells that can search their deck for a monster. So let's say they cast a spell search for their monster, you can use this, block the effect, make them play the top 4. If they miss, they can't cast the same spell again because they already casted it and it went through. So another thing is the new Empress. So basically what this does, right, is it stops your cards on your field getting loud voice effects. So your cards on your field cannot be crit cannot be reduced, power can be reduced, defense can be reduced. Another thing is that you can put a card from your opponent's drop zone back to their deck, or bottom deck to be specific. And another thing is that it reduces any damage that is 5 or more during your attack phase to 0. So usually you can stop a lot of big attacks, a lot of link attacks as well. And you can actually stop your opponent from retrieving cards from the bottom deck because when they target the card they want to retrieve, you just use this to make them miss target. So another thing is the future card Buddyfight. So this card, probably one of the most broken cards in the game. Use this to search out your Leviathan Sword of Bliss from your deck. So technically I'm playing 11 copies. Another thing is after you search for your buddy, you can gauge 2. So another effect of this card, right, is that when it's in your buddy zone, you give 2 crit to one of your buddy at the start of your attack phase. So another effect is that on counter, if either player's life is at 5 or less, you can search your deck for an impact. After that, you'll gauge 2. So for the search effect, you'll gauge 2 as well. So it's free gauge, so might as well play it. So for Laevateinn, nothing to say, just discard and draw when discarded. Okay, so now I'll be playing a new package. This is the Great Spell package. So we have the old cards. So let me explain to you why we're playing these cards. And a new Great Spell card. So basically this card is when this card is set on the field and you cast a Great Spell, you can put this card to the drop zone and draw 2. So technically, you can chain a lot of draw spells extra draws with this card for free if you have more Great Spells in your hand. So how you have more Great Spells in your hand is with the old Demon Lord package. So you cast a castle will search for the Apocalypse. Then after you can remove soul, draw 1. So what you usually do is set this, cast this, then this will proc, you draw 2, and then after you can set another one and then set this to draw 2 again. So it's a lot of extra draws. Another thing about this, right, is that it thins your deck out very fast. So when you cast the Apocalypse, right, if you put 3 cards from the top of your deck into its soul, right, and it happens to be items, you can remove it and then you can draw 1 card before your overkill. So it actually helps you tutor your deck faster and it turbos it out a lot better. Another card is the new Dimension Draw from the new Ragnarok set. So if you got a Great Spell on your field, you can cast this card for free and then just have a D-draw effect, draw 3, discard 2. So Graceful Charity, which is very good with all your discard folders. Another thing is that if you actually feel that you have selected items in your gauge and you want to pay them out, you can actually don't cast any other Great Spell first and then cast a D-draw for 2 gauge to burn them off. Yeah. Another new card which is very crucial is the Disaster Palace. So 2 simple effects. So when you cast, you draw a card, prevent your opponent from link attacking for the whole turn. So if you have the Light Blaze Sword, you can actually just block all their attacks in 1 turn. Another thing is that you can draw 1 and then restand your whole board of items. So because you're playing a Leviathan deck, you just restand your whole board for free. So that's a lot of attacks. So we have the Indestructible Blade Wall. So this is actually a very essential card for your extra draws. So why I play 4 copies is basically when you equip useless items like your Suitor Cross after they serve their purpose, you can actually just sack them to draw a card. Another thing is you can sack your items to reduce the next damage you take to 0. So with this you have actually a lot of additional draws and treat it like in a sense a deck thinner, if you will. So another thing will be 3 body block. So if you got Disaster Palace body block, you pretty much survive the turn. You got the Nullify attack to survive the turn, Empress to block damage. 3 spell now, very important. Go for the kill. 2 Yellow Guard, discard draw, 2, very good. Nothing to explain. So the 1-off copy, so 1 Merlin's Advice. Check top 3, 1 hero to hand, 1 to gauge, 1 to drop. Chaos, draw 2 spell. You got 2 chaos on board, draw 2. So you got your Abyss, your Leviathan, and your Savage. Another one is the pay 1 life, discard item, draw 2. Or give everything plus 7k power. Usually just use it for the draw 2. So it's just a filter and deck thinner. So that's it for the deck profile. So that's roughly how the deck functions. If you want, you can go and look at my other videos on how the gameplay is like. It's actually a rather smooth deck, unless you break most of the time, with a lot of high roll scenarios. So with that in mind and that being said, right, it's more of a deck that is suited for the current meta, because in the current game of Buddyfight, right, for your deck to be considered meta, you have to be able to go first and second and still win. So regarding about that, right, you also have to take in mind and factor into consideration that if you're going second, your deck has to be able to play through disruption effects like spell now, ability nows, or any destructions. So if your deck can fulfill all these criteria, which is playing through disruptions, being able to go first and win, being able to go second and win, probably it'll be a good deck for the meta. Okay, so I don't know how stacked the deck is now, but I'll just try to shuffle and see, and try to go with a test play hand. So just doing 1 test play. If it's good, then it's good. If it's bad, then oh well. So you got 6 cards. Okay, so this is a rather okay hand, I would say. So let's say I go first, I draw. Okay, in this scenario, you can charge away the Apocalypse because you don't really need it. On second thought, maybe you don't charge it away because you got the dimension draw in your hand. So what you can do is either prioritize the palace or the block. So for right now, I would charge away the palace because I don't have the combo to protect myself yet. So just draw spell now. Okay, so you need to, like, in a sense, like, you mark this gauge because you know it's a palace, so it's not a sword, so you're not gonna pay it away. So simply you just cast your inner guard, discard your Albedo, draw 2, then you charge and draw. So another thing now is that I can choose to go for the more advantageous play. So here, right, you have different routes. So if you want to save your gauge, you can actually suit across to discard your Abyss, search for Leviathan, and then you can equip back your Abyss from your drop zone. Or you can either commit a gauge to equip Abyss, and this will be a more gauge heavy play. However, it's a more safe and consistent play. Or another play you can do is simply just equip the cross, discard this item, and then search for another Abyss, so you got more items to work with. However, in this case, right, what I'll do is just cast the Apocalypse first, put 3 cards under your soul, so your opponent can't see it, so you can see it. So okay, this is a very bad 3 cards. Let's put it there. Then I'll just cast the dimension draw first, so I draw 3 for free because of this. So as you can see, now I have the draw 2 great spell card and another great spell in hand, so I can use the draw 2 effect. So what I'll do is discard the Widow and the pay 1 life card. So this effect, let me charge and draw. Okay, so now since I have the draw 2 cards and the draw 2, I'll just set this, set another great spell. So 3 cards, so 3 items. So if I have the castle, I would want to remove the soul from this Apocalypse. So this will trigger, put in drop zone, I'll draw another 2 cards. So now equip the Suitor Cross, discarding the fake replica. Searching my deck for another Abyss. And the fake replica will let me charge and draw. So just nice, I drew into a castle, cast a castle, search for another Apocalypse. So now what you can do is either use cast the Apocalypse first, put another 3 cards to fish out for better items for you to put in the drop zone, or you can gamble on the fact that you remove this soul and then you draw 1, and then the draw card is another great spell draw 2 card. So in this case, right, I don't have to gamble as much because there's already 3 items here and one of these is Abyss. So simply I'll just remove this 3, gain 3 life, draw a card. So just nice, I drew into Leviathan, so I don't have to do much. In this scenario, I'll just discard the dimension draw because we already used it. Equip another Leviathan, paying the unknown gauge. Just nice, we got like Bliss, good. Cast the draw 2 spell, so now draw 2. So look, we got back our Disaster Palace. So as you can see, we got Disaster Palace charge. Since we play 4 copies, we don't have to risk it as much. So we drew back into our Disaster Palace. So just pay another gauge, 1 life. So what you want to do now, right, is you can just pay 1 gauge, unknown gauge, to overkill, discarding the item in your hand, because you got nothing else to discard. Then you'll use 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now you equip all your items from your drop zone. So as you can see, you got 14 items before Battle Phase. So as you can see, this is a pretty defensive hand. So you got 2 gauge, which is going to be 3 with either of these cards. So if you're going first, you can actually just beat, and most likely the attack will go through, and then you charge and draw. So you have 1 gauge for your body block. Another thing is you can gauge for this, so you can still, your body block is guaranteed to go through. Your spell now is guaranteed to go through. You have the Disaster Palace with this combo to stop any attacks. So basically you are guaranteed to survive your opponent's turn. So what you'll do now is just Battle Phase, your 3 Abyss will trigger, and this will trigger. So what you can actually do is search for whatever you need for the circumstance. So you can just search for, since I already have the triangle, which is Durandal, protection, and the shield, you got basically everything, so there's nothing much else to search for. So you can search for effect damage, the destruction card, and now Durandal just for good measure, in case they find a way to get rid of your old Durandal with any shuffle back into deck effects or bottom deck effects. Yeah, then you can just go for the kill. Even then, if let's say you're going second, so in this scenario you got a spell now, stop any rest effects, but on triggers of your effects you can actually rest your cards. So it doesn't really matter as much, but after that you can actually spell now any end battle phase effects or any body block effects. Disaster Palace for this, just check the top card, so it's Empress. So you can still actually just go for the kill. So as you can see, that's how smooth running the deck is. Yes. So if you want to try this deck, I'm actually selling it. Yep, so you can just PM me and let me know.